G'day guys, this video is all about this 19-inch in diameter piece of poplar, 3 inches thick. Going to use the outside curve in a terraced fashion, and we're going to use a lot of texturing tools. Anyway, let's not chat on any further, let's get it going. Cheers! I did mount the bowl blank a little askew, so in fairness the faces of both sides are going to have to be rounded out. So the first step is to get that roundness and the flatness on both sides of this bowl blank. That's my 150 Vic Mark chuck spacing. This is the optimum size of the foot. I think it's about 4 inches. Half-inch bowl gouge. Just getting that face rounded and getting the foot to size so we can put this onto the Vic Mark truck. One thing about poplar, it's a great wood to work with. It's very much similar to the sycamore wood in the UK. Grain's not that wide as such as pine, it's very close together. And this particular piece that, or pieces I got out of a flat slab, 4 inches thick. It was fairly dry, but still had some moisture content, around about 12-13% with the meter. Very happy with that. And it's lasted a while. See here I'm using the spindle gouge, just a half-inch spindle gouge I used to just face up that foot, giving the angle foot matching the truck jaws. It's pretty well important to get the truck seated on any piece you're dealing with. This is the Simon Hope mini texturing tool. I do this in various ways on the back. It's more of an experimentation than it is actual by design. You run the lathe at around about 850, between 500 and 850, depending on where I'm actually using the texturing tool. Towards the centre I run it faster and the edges a little slower. But you see here the texturing tool is put on an angle of about 45 degrees and I run it one way, then reverse it to the similar sort of angle the other way. So depending on whether the texturing tool is elevated upwards or downwards or to the side or to the left or just in straight forms, it gives you all different types of structures. Don't be afraid to play around with these tools. You know, if everything doesn't look right, just get the bowl gouge out and face it up and start again. Of course you can't do it too many times, you'll end up with no wood at all, but you know, it's fun using this thing, and then you get to know what sort of patterns you like and to what angles. Take mental note or write it down somewhere for the next time. So you see there, I just put that straight on, so you get kind of like a dot pattern, and then I go in for a bit of an angle on the next one, which gives more of a swirly pattern. And you can see I elevated it this time, so just the edge of that cutting is going in, and I do it forwards and then backwards to get a little bit of depth on the cut. You will get tear out when the grain comes round. There's not much you can do about that, and you know, I haven't stressed about it at the end of the day. I just left it there. I made it as much as aesthetically looking as possible. You'll see a lot of tear out there now. I use a very fine-haired, short-haired brush, horsehair brush. Don't use nylon because the friction will just burn it and it will adhere to the wood itself. Been there and done that, so just be careful on what sort of brushes you use. Otherwise, a brass brush, although it can be a little bit stiff on some of the patterns that you use here. So horsehair brush is probably the best way to go. Now I'm using here a Master airbrush, a G233. There's several different models, but I found this model to be particularly good, works well. You only need to put a little bit of dye in that paint pot that's on the end of the airbrush, and it goes a long way. Just a fine fog on the first coat, and then just repeat the coats. I don't know how many coats I would have put into this, at least half a dozen, until you get the desired coverage. Now I'm rubbing in the silver gilt here. This is where I didn't really see that it came out as well as I would hope it to, and that's mainly because of the tear out in the grain. But what's going on here is basically I put the gilt cream on my thumb and then rub my forefinger in with the thumb, so you get kind of like a smooth coverage on the forefinger, and rub that into the surface over the painted areas. Now you don't want to rub too much of it in at any one time, otherwise it goes into that textured groove and it doesn't look good. So you've got to be very careful and very patient and slow. About 3 to 4 coats, allowing around 30 minutes drying time between each application. So it is a patient game on that one. Now the bowl's been turned around, and going to do the edge with some more texturing. I don't go into it a great deal in this video. It's just the same sort of methodology as on the rear of the bowl. So I've got around about a 2-inch rim on this bowl platter, and then I hollow out the centre for what was going to be a little bit more texturing, but in the end I left it because the grain in the poplar wood is amazing. So left the rear and the front to be textured and silver gilted, and left the centre of the bowl to be a plain grain pattern. As in my other videos I mentioned, I usually go around to 240 or 320 sanding in these grits, starting off around 120, 120, 180, 240, 320, sometimes to 400, depends on how the grains looked. It's not always a fixed thing as far as the sanding is concerned. You just got to take what you think is good at any particular project. So there's the rim. Going to put a little bead on the end with a gouge. Be careful with this, because if you enter the gouge into the piece too close to that edge rim, it can catch, and it'll drag your gouge back towards the rim, and that's not a good thing to happen. So I generally leave the gouges angle around about 45 degrees when I enter, and push down on the gouge rather than pushing into the piece, so that you get a fairly easy touch. Anything more difficult, anything more harder, you're going to end up catching, and it's going to cause a disaster on the rim. I use here a curved bowl scraper, just to get the surface flat and nice and smooth, and then back in with a 1/2 inch skew, just to give a fine edge of that rim. So there's the top of the bowl. It's been textured in various different twists of the Simon Hope mini texture tool, and I'm just going to hollow out the centre of the bowl. So sit back and watch that all happen. If anyone's got any questions from the channel here in regards to this particular piece, or any other piece for that matter, please do leave your comments in this video, and I will always answer them. So any help you might need, happy to provide. So the duct tape on the inside of that bowl is just really to stop the airbrushing's overspray going into the newly finished off bowl center. The same methodology as on the back of the bowl is applied here. Black dye sealer applied, and then finally the silver gilting. 3 to 4 coats, and it should come out fairly well. There are some little stages in this particular product where I got a little bit impatient and put too much gilting, and it does go straight into the textured grooves. If that happens, there's not much you can do about it, other than turning the whole thing back and starting again. That's something I didn't want to do on this piece, so left it as is. The final finishing touch is this polyurethane spray, and it just seals all of the gilting, dyes, etc. So gives a bit of a shiny gloss as well. Now the bowl's been turned around and it's sitting on the vacuum chuck. This is probably one of the largest bowls I've put onto this, the Frugal vacuum chuck. It held it on as fast as if it was glued with CA. It didn't move an inch, taking that foot off. Of course, you've got to be careful not to apply too much pressure or cause a catch. I've been fortunate enough so far not to have a catch with the vacuum chuck. I believe it will move and shift. If you get a bowl this size that shifts maybe, a hair's breadth from its centre, it's going to wobble out and more than likely be spun off. Anyway, that's what I think, and I'm not even going to test it to try out. So, just saying, it's a damn good vacuum truck. I don't know how I managed to do without one of these in the past. Well, that's another project finished. I mean, half minds whether I actually like this or not, but anyway, it was fun doing. You can see on the reverse, almost looks like a Roman shield. So I can bring it a bit closer so you guys can see it a little bit more under the light. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of texture gone into this with the texturing tools. But I'm not sure of the silver gilding. You can see some areas there where it fills the gaps of the texturing, and yeah, the reverse sides are a lot more so, as you can see. Okay, but if anything else, I've got some really good practice on using those texturing tools, and also the pointing tools. It was a good project. Anyway, if you like this one or not like this one, or you got lots of comments for it, please put them in here, and let's just see what you guys think. It was a project, it was fun, and it's done. So next week, guys, cheers.